Hey, Norcal Carters, this is Jason, and it is Monday, January 9th, 2023, and this is our first show of 2023, and tonight we have a special guest. The title of the show is Karting 101 Training, and our special guest, I'm going to bring him up right now, is Dion van Moltke, and he is with Blayze. Dion, introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. Super excited to be here. Always love talking about performance and training when it comes to karting. My name's Dion. I used to kart a while back, was fortunate enough to compete for some national championships and world championships and make a career as a professional race car driver for more than 10 years, where I was able to win the 24 Hours of Daytona, the Sebring 12 Hours twice, became an Audi driver and did some young driver testing in DTM as well. And since then, I've moved to the driver coaching, where I run a company called Blayze, where we make it more affordable and accessible to learn one-on-one with the best coaches on the planet. And our coaching roster includes people like Spencer Piggott, Oliver Askew, Ricky Taylor, Colin Mullen. We've worked with Joseph Newgarden, James Hinchcliffe, a lot of these drivers. And we make it easy to upload your video to us and then get personalized feedback from some of the best drivers in the world, no matter what you race, where you race, or what your goals are.
Very cool. So thank you for joining us tonight. So normally at the beginning of my show, I do a little bit of housekeeping. Tonight, I'm going to go through it a little quicker than normal, so that way we can get right back to you. And again, while I'm doing this, if you want, go bookmark blayze.io. That's Blayze. Check it out on the t-shirt right there. So blayze.io for online coaching and training. And with that being said, I'll get some housekeeping done, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about many different aspects of motorsport training with a target focus on karting.
Let's do it.
All right. There we go. Okay, so a couple of housekeeping of things going on here. We have karting calendars are hitting the social media channels. So there's Rock Sonoma has their schedule out. Challenge of the Americas had their schedule out for a while. SCUSA has their schedule out. Prairie City has confirmed their 2023 schedule for both 2-cycle, 4-cycle, and the new Norcal Sprint Series schedule. So those we will have posted on Norcal Carters this coming week. Let's see. We also have, I think I said Rock Sonoma, Blue Max Kart Club. They have their schedule coming out. It's out there. I need to make a graphic for them so we could start pushing that as well. And speaking of Blue Max Kart Club, this weekend, shine only. Shine only is not rain or shine. It's shine only. There is a swap meet at Blue Max. That's out in Davis, here in Northern California, a karting swap meet. It is shine only. So go contact Blue Max Kart Club, get their information to stay up to date on that swap meet. And again, it's shine only. And I'm only saying that because if you're out of our area, we've been hammered by some rain lately. And I don't normally push the weather thing. But they made the post on their social media channels that it was going to be a shine event, and they were going to postpone it to February if it rains or it's too wet to host the swap meet. So that's this weekend. And let's see. I have my notes. I have for 2023. This is not a New Year's resolution, but I went through, revamped my notepad, so I'm having notes right now. Let's see here. We were talking about Blue Max, the swap meet, Gorilla Barbecue. Can't forget those guys. They've been a sponsor of our show, And I'm going to mention them a little bit later on as well. But Gorilla Barbecue, thank you for your support of NorCal Karters. Rich Bakke has been instrumental with karting going back to the 90s and more lately with the Track Magic Owners Group. So thank you, Rich, for your support of NorCal Karters and what we're doing. And we're growing. So speaking of growing, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going for 1,000 subscribers. So last year, it went around. I said, oh, if I get 1,000 subscribers, I'll shave my head. Well, then I realized, it was brought to my attention, Kart Chaser did that. And I'm already stealing enough stuff from Xander. He always helps me out with tech questions, behind the scenes type things with the podcast and the live streaming and video. And it's like, you know what? If they already did it, it's like, there's no point. So I'm mixing it up. When we hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, I will do a special show. We will do a drawing, and I will sponsor a racer in an event. So if the event is at one of our supporting clubs, meaning Rock Sonoma, Challenge of the Americas, Prairie City Karting, or NCK Road Racing, if it's at one of those events, or if you're a member of the Track Magic Owners Group or Team Visalia, I will also sponsor your fuel and tires. So when we hit 1,000 subscribers, I will be sponsoring entry fees at bare minimum. And if you're part of one of those clubs that has supported NorCal Karters in 2022 and going into 2023, I will sponsor your fuel and race tires for an event. So that will be a special show. So NorCal Karters, YouTube, traffic. So with that being said, if you want to hear about the past events, I will post a link for the one we did on December 15th, right about there. We had the Cubs and the calendars going live. So that was a podcast we did on Spreaker and on YouTube. So go check it out. And with that being said, Dion, get back in here. There we go.
First off, I'm just going to say I'm literally kind of going to my YouTube app and going to subscribe right now because that's freaking awesome what you're doing to help support and sponsor. I'm all about it. Love it. So I'm going to be the next subscriber here really soon.
Yeah, and I've been trying to figure out different gimmicks, right, to grow the channel. And it's like,
totally.
The haircut idea was funny. It's like, all right. But honestly, yeah, Kart Chaser did it. So it's like,
but this is so much more meaningful, right? Like
exactly.
Shaving the hair is fun, right? Growing a mullet's fun. This is meaningful, which I'm all about.
Well, and I also came up with one. It's like, okay, if we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'll let somebody, come in, do my hair however they want, put fake eyelashes on me, and I'll walk around for 24 hours. But I mean, that doesn't do anything to grow karting. So it doesn't promote it. It doesn't grow it. So it's like, you know what? I'll do an entry fee. So that's going to be easy enough.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So, thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's see. Again, this is Dion von Moltke from Blayze, Blayze.io. And a little bit later in the show, I'll throw up the promo code that you have. But why don't you jump into that real quick? Talk about your promo code you have for karting.
Well, we can spend just a little bit of time on this. I think most people are going to be more interested in performance. But we are, for Blayze, essentially what we do is when I was karting, when I came up racing, I knew how challenging it was to get quality coaching, quality advice. And that went on and off the racetrack. And, I look back in my career, I was fortunate enough to, even with those challenges, have some pretty decent coaches along the way. But there's so many decisions that if I had just made a slightly different decision, my career or potential career would have been ended right then and there. So, for example, when I was coming up, it was, I was racing against Joseph Newgard and Ricky Taylor, Gabi Chavez, a lot of these guys in karting. So this is 2006, 2007. I know I'm really old now. And when I left karting, trying to go to a career at the time, there was two options as to move into race cars. There was Skip Barber, and then there was Formula Renault 1.6 and 2.0 in the SCCA. And, SCCA had the cooler cars. Skippy had the quote unquote more competition. And at the time, it was a really hard decision knowing where to go. Fortunately, I picked going to Skip Barber, racing there, and that kind of, really propelled my career. If I had moved to SCCA like some of the other kids at the time, every one of their careers would have been done. My career would have been done. And it was just a luck of the draw. And when I look at that type of decision, and then how do you actually build speed quickly on the racetrack, which isn't taught right almost anywhere. I wanted to make an impact on that. And we knew coaching had to be personalized. We can't just make a video and say, hey, here's how you drive quickly, because it depends on conditions, on the driver, on the cart, on the car, whatever you're doing. So that's where we wanted to make it more affordable, accessible. We built the Blayze platform. You can try having a dedicated coach, someone like an Oliver Askew, where you hop on a call with them, you get personalized coaching, you get chat messaging with them. You can try 1 month for just $29. And see if you like it. If you like it from there, it only costs $365 for the whole year. So $1 a day, you get personalized coaching, chat messaging. We get every other Tuesday night, we have a coaching calls with some of the best coaches in the business. So it's a really great program. So no matter, kind of like I said, if you're a master's driver who's wanting to go faster, if you're a cadet driver that's dreaming about going pro, we've kind of built a platform that works really well for you.
Very cool. Yeah. And I met you last year at the Rock Sonoma event.
Yeah.
And for a couple of races, I was announcing Blayze, your website to people. And it wasn't really until we sat down together and went through the website and you explained what you were doing and how you could upload everything. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I know we don't really want to make this a sales pitchy type live stream. And you and I had talked about that previously. Gary Carlton was going to join us tonight from GFC Karting. And he's one of the, you mentioned Oliver Askew. So, Oliver was under the tent with Gary and they go back in karting as well. But Gary's, everyone knows in Norcal, he's a buddy of mine, but working under his tent in the past, there's a lot of stuff I've seen that I have not seen under other tents. And so I reached out to him as well. It's like, hey, let's do this training thing. And he was all for it. But he just had some other things come up this evening that he wasn't able to reschedule. But it got my mind going about the different aspects of training. A couple of years ago when I thought of training, I was thinking, oh, lifting weights or doing cardio, doing this, doing that. But there's a lot more to it. And so with that being said, in your own words, define the word training and how does that look to you when you hear about training specifically in motorsports?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would take a step backwards here. So when I look at this, training is a means to an end. It is a means towards driving to performance, right? And so really the reason we train is to perform. So what I'd rather dig into here is, what is performance? And performance is really a center of 3 different things. And this is true for anything, any sport, beyond sports, but especially true in motorsports. Performance in motorsports is physical, mental, and technique. And then you can layer in each one of those. For example, technique, you have skill-based sort of technique, and then you have knowledge-based techniques as well. So when I look at training, it is an understanding of what are the drivers that lead up to performance, which again, mental, physical, technique, and understanding how do I train those 3 effectively in each one of those areas, because I need to be at the top of my game in all 3 areas to drive performance.
All right. That's a great definition for training. And that's
maybe a little bit long-winded.
What's that?
Maybe a little bit long-winded, but I think
it's okay. You're a racer, so we get used to it.
Yeah.
Let's see. So following up with that, what is one of those, what is one underrated or overlooked training habit? Where you, with your experience with motorsports and karting, where you tell yourself there should be more attention here, but there's not.
So my mind goes to, as race car drivers, the nature of our sports, do everything ourselves, right? Like I had some coaching in karting, I had some coaching in Skip Barber. And then interesting is I started to transition to pro racing. I no longer had coaches at that point. At that point, it was on me trying to figure it out. And I was driving alongside some of the freaking best drivers on the planet. People like Memo Gidley, Andy Lally, ex-Formula One drivers like Rennie Rast as well, and getting my butt kicked. And, we put a lot of load on ourselves to say, okay, let me figure this out. Let me try to get this. And it only really hit me probably as my career was sort of winding down. I sat down with a good friend of mine, Ricky Taylor, who was driving for Penske Racing at the time. And we were just kind of talking back and forth about, our lives in the sport and the things that we had learned. And what I quickly realized is, I had done reasonably well, right? I had been a factory driver, had won some of the biggest races on the planet. There was a difference in his knowledge versus my knowledge. He knew more than I knew in this sport. And what I realized is he surrounded himself with coaches. He surrounded himself with some of the best drivers on the planet. He was learning from the Will Powers, from the Paganots, from the Helio Castroneveses, and he just was able to learn more. So for me, I think the biggest thing here is not seeking out quality world-class people that have a system for teaching the sport, that have been there, that have performed at the top, can communicate that to you, and trying to just do this yourself. You're wasting money, you're wasting time, and you're relying on luck. And for me, and that I look at this in all three facets, whether it's a coach for technique, if you're working a performance psychologist. I've been to Italy, I've been across the United States working with some of the best performance psychologists who made a huge impact on my career. And then having the right physical trainers as well. All three, but more primarily, the biggest mistake I see in our sport is on the technique side, and really trying to rely on some local person that isn't really a coach, that, just doing it because they do it, or not having anybody and trying to do it yourself.
Yeah. And I think, especially if you're new out there,
yeah.
And, if you're on a budget and you're looking at it, my biggest breakthrough in karting was I spent 2.5 years of partial seasons because I got frustrated. I wasn't getting the results. Mm-hmm. Of course, I bought a go-kart to go race. That was number one. Why? Because I was better than everybody else in my head. And after 2 years of just mediocre, pathetic results, I sat myself down and said, I'm going to quit or I'm going to change something. And, I went back and I looked at it. It's like, okay, where do I need help? It's like, I don't know where I need help because I'm the best guy out here, but I'm finishing last. So I decided I hired a driving coach for 4 weekends. I called him up. His name is Damon Meek. I called him up and said, Damon, I want to hire you for 4 weekends this winter. And those coaching sessions really opened my mind to like, okay, you need to put your ego aside. You need to learn, figure out where you're off. And I went from being lapped at the last race in, I think this was 1998, to walking away in 1999, one race apart from each other, all because of the coaching. Nothing else changed in my program except for my mindset and the coaching.
What's really interesting about the sport of motorsports is it is a very counterintuitive, skill-based sport. So I hear from a lot of people like, you're just born quick or you're not born quick. That is completely wrong. It is a skill-based sport. And interesting enough, it's a sport where we have fundamentals. There is a certain order in which you're supposed to teach the sport and learn the sport. If you go Google right now, racing fundamentals, nothing comes up. If you go Google soccer fundamentals, you're getting hundreds of results, right? It just kind of shows you how just inept we are as a sport, and how do we teach this properly. So one of the things first things we did here is we brought in some of the best coaches. We got together and we formed, okay, what should our fundamentals be? In which order are those fundamentals? And then how do we actually teach this the right way? Like, using the term eyes up, the most useless term in our sport, because what the heck does that actually mean, right? The great thing about video analysis is I can pause your video, I can go slow motion forward, I can go slow motion backwards, I can flip in my video or Oliver Askew's video side by side and literally show you in the right environment. How many times I get off the track and my coach was like, you're just overdriving it. And I'm like, what does that mean, right? So that's the great thing about this format, right? But so the second part of this here is because it's a skill-based sport, anyone can learn to drive reasonably fast. Most people can learn to drive, can learn to win races, but it's also a very counterintuitive sport. I can tell you right now, one of the surprising things that I've learned, and I've now coached over 1,000 amateur race car drivers and karters. If you take a pro driver and you take an amateur driver, the amateur driver is going to spend more time on throttle across the lap than the professional driver. But the professional drivers spend more time at full throttle. So we think, crap, I'm slow. I need to get back to throttle. And that it ends up driving us in the wrong way because now we overslow corner entries. We have in cars weight transfer incorrectly. We shift the axle incorrectly in karting. We scrub speed. We now get a wheel hop. We go down this massive road, and now we can't fix it because we're at the limit of the cart or car on corner exit, but we're messing up our corner entries because we're too anxious to get back to throttle. We have this whole spinning thing. So it's a very counterintuitive sport, and it's also a skill-based sport that you can learn when you have quality people that know how to explain it in the right way.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's give our viewers, let's give them a couple nuggets here. Away from the track.
Yeah.
What's a physical exercise you would recommend to a karter that they could do away from the track?
Interval training. Everyone's on the triathlon kind of, scream long distance running. I was fortunate enough to go to a place called Exos, which they train, for example, most first round NFL draft picks, the German national soccer team, Olympic level athletes, and work with some of the best trainers in the world. And they're like, your sport does not need the long distance running nearly as much as what's being promoted. You need to have some level of strength training, and you need to have interval training. And you need some endurance. So what I would say is first and foremost, interval training on the treadmill, running. If you have a local, for simplicity, you have a local soccer field, go in, do 4 to 5 reps of sprinting the lengthwise of the field, walking widthwise, sprinting lengthwise, walking, in, not a break, just sprint and then walk, sprint and then walk. That's a great one. And then obviously for karting, forearms, shoulders are pretty big of importance, right? So, any type of shoulder fly with some, isometric exercise. You can't see my arms, where it's essentially just holding it there for a beat. So not heavy weights, but, not super light weights either. That's really helpful as well. So those are the two things right off the top of my head that I would go to.
Perfect. You lift, bro?
You got to lift a little bit.
Yeah,
exactly. I think we, as race car drivers, if the more athletic you can become, the better off you're going to be. So does jumping high and running fast directly translate to performance in the kart? No, but it does actually, the way that our muscle fibers work, is it does increase reaction times to have a certain amount of fast twitch fibers in those muscles. So it does eventually have an indirect effect as well.
I've been working on my slow twitch. Yeah, I got the slow twitch down.
Which nice leads me into my next.
Yeah, slow. I got the slow dialed, which leads me into my next question. What's one mental exercise karters can do away from the track?
Oh God, there's so many. Meditation. For me, meditation, number one thing. It changed my life. It was the biggest impact in my performance as a race car driver was understanding and learning about the mental side of the sport and how to do this effectively. I was like any kid, 13 to 16 years old, where I was off the track, doing my thing, running around. Red Bull was really popular at the time, popping Red Bulls, having fun with my friends. And then, session, let me put my helmet on and go. Not, I thought I was working hard. I look back, I'm like, I was not working hard because I didn't know what that even looked like or what, in between sessions should be. So for me, I would find a trigger word or a couple. So the thing that I always learned was I would have sort of my motto that I would go and do square breathing. So breathe in for 4 seconds, hold the breath in for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds. Most important part, hold breathless for 4 seconds and then repeat. And then I would have a kind of a mantra that I used to say, which for me was precision focus in the moment on the task at hand to the exclusion of everything else. I say that still every time I put my helmet on. And then one thing I've liked recently is, so a lot of people think, okay, well, I can't meditate. I can't sit there thinking about nothing. Literally, that's not what meditation is. In fact, what the brilliant part about meditation is, it's actually the science has started to show the act of losing focus, realizing you've lost focus and bringing your focus back is like a little mini bench press for your mind. So that act of losing focus, realizing it, bringing it back, if you can do that in an environment if you can't do that in an environment like this, you can't do that on the racetrack, right? And a lot of times you don't even realize you've lost focus on the racetrack. So meditation is great for that. It also build in certain triggers. Like there's some really easy things that I just learned about. This is going to look super weird, but I don't really care. There's one type of to help you stay focused on your square breathing is to, as you breathe in, raise your arms up, hold them up for the breath, for the hold, and then slowly bring them down. It brings your body in. It makes you focus internally, right? You have to focus on doing that. So one of the things I like to do is like breathe in confidence, breathe out doubt, breathe in confidence, breathe out doubt, little things like that. But if you can really work on meditation, take it seriously, because that's also a massive part of this.
Yeah. And again, it's all part of training, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not just lifting weights or hitting the treadmill.
No. Honestly, I would really say beyond having a baseline of some fitness, which you need to have, really in our sport, it's technique is the main pillar that you build off of. Without technique, you're not going to be fast. Mental is the secondary major pillar. Physical for us is important, but I would if I had to pick 2 of the 3 to focus on, it's the other 2.
Well, there goes that last question.
Oh no.
And then let's see here. Make sure, yeah, because I had a number of questions that I wanted to go over.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, you wrapped it up with that last one.
Boom. There we go. Crushing the questions.
Yeah, and I always find training interesting because it's it really depends on your environment. Like I mentioned Gary Carlton earlier because again he was going to be on the show, and seeing some of the stuff he's doing there, he did ask me. He goes, "Hey, how in depth are we going to go?" And I go, "I need you to give the listeners some nuggets, but you don't need to pull back your whole show because." As anyone at a competitive level in anything understands, like any edge we can find, we're keeping it. I mean, it's
unless you're working with a Blayze coach, because we literally just share it all. That's the great thing about this is you're learning. Like you can go on a call right now and have Ricky Taylor, Penske Racing factory driver, literally be your coach, and he's there. If you want to ask him, hey, I'm looking to make my next step out of karting, what should I do? Or I'm racing at Prairie City and I'm struggling to turn 3. Here's my video. What am I doing wrong? He's there to help with that. So there's we have the opposite approach where it's to tell all because of that secrecy our sport has, which to be completely fair to the teams, they should have that, right? As a race team, you need that. So I'm not calling them out. I would be the same. I'll be doing the same thing as a race team. But kind of a cool little thing about what we've been able to do here is break down the walls of this secrecy. And everyone always says, one of my favorite quotes, Tony Robbins, is like, the way you learn is you study the best in the world. How do you actually study the best in the world? Like, how do you, like, if I wanted to go study Lewis Hamilton right now, there's nothing there really. Sure, I can watch some of his onboard videos, but I can't. What does he do on the day-to-day basis? How does he think? Like, you can't do that. That's really what we're trying to be able to build here, is to break down those barriers and make it more accessible to do that.
Yeah. So some of the business coaches I follow on YouTube, they have this attitude of, I don't care if I tell you because you're not going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like their attitude is like, yeah, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I do because most of you won't go out and do it.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I think about it like over just even my own life. It's like, oh yeah, there's been plenty of times where I had a great idea, right? And what did I do with that idea?
It's all down to execution,
a great idea.
Right? Yeah, it's all down to execution. And then as a coach, one of the things I know about how learning works, it's on a feedback loop. So from a learning perspective, it's not here's the answers to the test, I'll see you, right? No, in fact, how we build ourselves as race car drivers, one of my favorite things is, when I'm working with a race car driver, and like I said, I've coached over 1,000 now and been fortunate enough to see an average of more than 1 second a lap gain after one coaching session. And after I work with people for about a year to a year and a half, they've got a pretty good baseline. They're feeling good. They're starting to win races. They always come to me like, okay, so when do we get to the advanced stuff? Like, when do we start learning the really cool stuff? And I always laugh because it's like, that's not how this works. Like, even as a professional race car driver, we're working on our fundamentals and they're all looped. And all we're trying to do is, as I improve one fundamental, and our fundamentals really are going to be car placement and vehicle placement. It's going to be vision. It's going to be brake adjustability. It's going to be body placement. And then it's also going to be our first 5%, last 5% of all inputs, because that's what generates weight transfer, what's move the carts around. And as I improve one fundamental, my other fundamentals start to lag. So I need to improve the next one, and then all of a sudden I improved my last one. Well, now my first one's lagging. Let me get that one up. And that's when you look at, let's use an analogy of basketball. You look at Steph Curry, sure, he has some fun and he's doing some crazy shots, but when he's practicing, he's practicing fundamentals. He's practicing, shooting from the 3-point line. He's practicing from the free throw line. And that's what we have to do as race car drivers as well, is focus on the fundamentals. Those fundamentals never change. We're always working on mastering them. And that takes time. It takes an outside credible source that's non-biased that can help you assess yourself. And that is one of the hardest things for us to do. And I always my analogy here is sometimes it's hard as someone that's a professional in the sport. It can be hard to relate to someone that's not a professional in the sport, right? Like we have a different level of education of how to do things. So I always put myself in the amateur tennis player shoes, and I'm a terrible tennis player. And what I know all of the need of personalization, but what do? I go watch the master class with Serena Williams. I go to YouTube. I consume all the content that I know isn't going to really help me. And of course, like, I'm a terrible server. I know when I serve, I need to have my elbow up. I need to have the right placement. I need my eyes up. I need my right pronation of the racket. I need my right follow through. I need my right reach. But which one of those 8 things am I actually doing wrong? 9 times out of 10, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and say 10 times out of 10, I'm wrong at which one of those things I'm doing it, and I'm wrong on how do I actually fix that thing, right? And that's what happens in racing. Like, everyone comes and says, yeah, I need to work on trail braking. And I watched their video. I'm like, no, your trail brake is fine. It's over here we need to work, and here's how we need to fix it.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here, because I know Kart Chaser had an episode on this. It's come up on our show a few times. Data and video.
Yeah.
So it's, you talk to some people and it's like, that's it. That's the end all. Data, video. You talk to other people, it's like, it's just an inconvenience and it gets in the way. So when it comes to data and video, let's break the two apart. So how would you prioritize? Let's go with video first. How would you prioritize, being that is your base platform for coaching?
So we do both, and I'm going to take my Blayze hat off. I'm going to give you my just raw. I can't even understand how someone would think video and data isn't helpful or is a distraction. Like, I don't even comprehend that. If you go look at any professional sport across the ecosystem, you do the learning in the film room. And when, as a professional race car driver, I study video, and I do more and more video. The better and better I got. You look at the best, you go study the best in the world. The best in the world is studying their data and their video. So I don't even understand that one. So now we've got a baseline that data and video are powerful tools. Video is the much more powerful tool for 99% of drivers. So a lot of times I will say, if you're not within now karting, so we coach motorcycle riders, karters, race car drivers, soccer. We coach a whole bunch of different sports. Karting is a bit more of a unique sport because the margins are a little bit closer. So let's say for our race car drivers, if they're not within a second, which I know in karting sounds like a lot of lap time, but in car racing, it's a little bit less. It's still a relatively small gap. I don't need to see your data. I can literally draw your data just by watching your video, because I've watched 20,000 hours of video. As you start to get closer to the limit, data becomes more important, because that's where your eyes, even with slow motion video, you can't quite see some of the really minute differences. And that's where the tiny little things really start to add up. So for a karting driver, if you're not within, 7/10 of not of your, of the local people, but of the best in the world, data is a nice to have, but really it's almost all going to be video. If you are one of those drivers that is within a half second, 7/10 of the ultimate best in the world, both are important. Data without video loses a lot. You still need the video, but that's where data becomes more and more important.
I like that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like, I'm in and out of the go-kart seat depending on my mood and the year, etc. But if I'm always looking for a new track, I started doing road racing a few years ago, and I had a very hard time finding good other racer video on YouTube for road racing that I wanted to do it from a kart perspective. I didn't want to see a Miata or any other race. I wanted a kart perspective. And then one of my buddies, Joe Hollinger, he started videoing the stuff, and the sound was good because it wasn't blowing your eardrums out. Everything was nice and clear. And I would just sit there. I was like, okay, I've never been on this track. It's like, I don't even know how to get to the track. All right, I'm going to watch Joe's videos and just, and it's amazing how much a learning curve it just cut off.
Yeah, 100%. One of our most popular sort of parts of the Blayze platform is we have, this is more predominant on the car racing side, but we'll be working with Oliver on this on the karting side. We have done this a little bit with Ryan Norberg as well as one of our coaches. So on the car racing side, we have, I want to say it's up to 60 in-depth racetrack guides where one of our coaches gets a nice video and talking through the videos. They have a web camera, they go slow motion, they talk about here's the reference, obviously, and doing a general video like this, exactly where you brake will change a little bit on the car type or kart type or conditions. So it'll be like more like, here's the right range, here's the priority in the corner, entry speed or exit speed corner, here's how I know that, here's where I want the placement, there's this curb here, I'm looking for this, and this is where I want to. And we have this just, come into our site. They're always available to watch, rewatch. We'll have written notes with it as well. And like I said, we're building this out in karting where we had Ryan Norberg do a few different tracks. We had Gianmarco Raimundo, who's a F2 driver, do a few tracks. We'll be working with Oliver Askew and sort of building that out. Having the right material to study ahead of time is massive. I mean, I can't tell you how, like, this was the earliest days of YouTube, I think, was around when I was karting. And I remember we went to a couple world championships in Italy. It was Jesolo, and I forgot the first track we went to. You don't know the track. You just show up and you drive and you're like, I think it's this way. And, I think this is where we're going. And having that, like, showing up with an understanding is a massive advantage.
Yeah, and even for the brand new guy, it's just the basic of how do you get on and off the track safely. Because I have been to some tracks where they ended up on the track and they didn't know where the exit was. It's like,
where's pit lane, the paddock? When I got into car racing, figuring out the paddock was one of the hardest freaking parts about the sport. The teams would be like, okay, you're good, just go. And you'd be like, where do I go? How do I get on the racetrack? I don't know what I'm doing.
And that's always been a focus of my show too, is trying to remember my day one. What information can I put out there in racing that I had in day one? Because it's been so long ago, and I don't know everything. Like I'm way down here on the knowledge.
That makes
level.
Two of us.
Yeah, it's like I'm way down here on knowledge level, but I do try to put myself in that. It's like I've been doing it for so long, you just kind of forget. You take so many things for granted, like breathing. You don't think about breathing ever. And there's many applications where it's like, no, you need to focus on your breathing. It's like, why? I just do it naturally. Well, are you doing it right? I don't know.
And there's actually an interesting study that came out on semi-professional athletes that showed it was 86 or 93% of at this level breathe incorrectly, which is a really interesting thing. You're like, how the heck do you breathe incorrectly? But it's actually pretty predominant. But yeah, totally. The other big thing is just learning the language, hearing how someone communicates, how they think about a racetrack, how they talk through it, even if a lot of it sounds gibberish at the start, understanding, having a common language, the how we communicate things, that it sounds like it's a little thing, but it's not. I just being able to learn and drive alongside like a Memo Gidley and learning how he communicated things. Now, this is at a slightly different level. There's just so much that you absorb and learn from that. And the more that you can do that, the better off you're going to be.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally. I was, as you were chatting, I was just posting on the different threads real quick. It's like, how do our listeners train or prep for a kart event? Speaking, and then with the karting stuff on the West Coast, what would you say your favorite track is?
Ooh, I mean, probably Sonoma. If we're talking karting tracks or just karting track, I would have to say Sonoma. How about yourself?
People think I give such a political answer, but I don't. I personally like all of them.
That sounds like a political answer. I'm going to call you out here.
Because every track is just so it has its own characteristic.
For sure.
If I'm going to be in a shifter or probably a faster kart, absolutely Sonoma for Norcal.
Yeah.
Because it's just a proper current track for the current specs of a kart.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if I would voluntarily jump into a kart at Sonoma that had a Blayze engine on it.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, it is very kind of kart dependent. I'll give you that for sure.
I mean, in my opinion, it's just too big. It's just too big for Blayze.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, you go to Prairie City.
Yeah.
I had a hard time wheeling my 125 around Prairie City where it was fun. Yeah. It's I was just thinking too much. Man, it's I know I'm slow. Physically, I can't hang on. Everything is happening so fast. This is not enjoyable. I'm a recreational karter. This is not enjoyable. Where's my Blayze kart?
Totally. It kind of reminds me. So I grew up karting in Miami at the time. You had, obviously Homestead, kind of the big track, but Opelika is actually where I kind of learned driving. And this was, I was on the Fittipaldi racing team with Pietro and Enzo. And of course, Emerson was there. Max Pappas would come. Tony Kanaan would be there. Elio Castroneves would be there. At one, Pablo Montoya would be coming out. It was the who's who of karting is in this small rinky dink parking lot, tiny little racetrack, bumpy. It's in the middle of the ghetto. It is the strangest little thing.
Is that the track that I don't know if they're still around? Risa Racing.
They use so I don't know if Rice is still around, but they used to run that track.
They used to run that track.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. Yeah. And man, it was just, gosh, it was such a tough, tight racetrack. I can't tell you how many axles I probably broke hitting the tire wall back then, but you learned a ton around there. It was cool having somebody, as a kid being on the same track as a Max Pappas or somebody like that was just such a cool opportunity to have. I do miss that place, but yeah, every track will have its kind of pluses or minuses and be a little bit more suited to one car than the other. I think you're spot on with that.
Yeah, and if I'm talking to a new guy, I just tell him your favorite track. My favorite track is the one closest to you.
Yeah, more seat time, the better. Whatever makes it easy for you. 100%. 100%.
That's my favorite kart track.
Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's once you've got tons of seat time, then you're okay. It's okay, what are my bucket list tracks that I've got to get to? But early on, it's just get as much seat time as you can get.
Well, a couple of years ago, it was Team Visalia. It's a group of gentlemen that they're not. They're a race team, but they're not like a shop associated with a race team. They're just a race team. And there's a bunch of gentlemen racers that get together and they promote karting. They all focus on shifter stuff because that's what they do. And there's a track in Bakersfield. It's a Bakersfield Kart Club. I thought, and this is pathetic. I have a NorCal Karters website, right? I thought the track was closed. I thought it was I thought I got bulldozed and turned into an oil pump or something 30 years ago. And they call me up and say, hey, we're going to get together on this weekend to go to Bakersfield. It's what are you talking about? They go, yeah, they just repaved it. You want to meet? And it's Bakersfield. I've only heard about it. And I'm thinking to myself, do I need to show up with a KT100 and drive the track? And they were bringing all their shifters down there. And so I'm watching videos online. It's man, it's a 5-hour drive. I don't want to do. I really want to take my shifter out there. I did it anyway, and as I met them down there, and they allowed me to drive their cart, so I'd have to pull my equipment down there. It's oh, this is cool. And I'm watching the videos. The video, it's a small track, but when I'm driving it in the shifter, it was so much fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just kind of blew my mind. It's man, this is so cool, and I'm so glad that I had that experience, and I kind of went, yeah, let's just go to a kart track and try it out without going, oh, it's not this and it's not that. I walked away with a huge smile on my face.
And that, it's amazing how often I find there's on those days, those random days are just purely fun. There's also a strong correlation between those days and breakthrough moments for race car drivers as well, because you're more relaxed.
Yeah.
You're out there just kind of screwing around. You're trying different things. You're typically getting a lot of laps in, a longer stints, more rhythm, right? And I find a lot of times that's the breakthrough days that just something clicks. You're that's what they mean when I should be doing this or this certain thing, right? So any opportunity, especially early on, that you can experience that, like, all about it.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. I got my daughter in the background. No, I'm good. Thanks. She's asking if I want water.
Love it.
Yeah. So the tracks that you have in your database, karting tracks.
Yeah.
What West Coast tracks do you have?
I know we have Sonoma. I think we currently have. I'm gonna go look it up really quick here. You've caught me off guard.
No, it's all right.
I think we currently have a little bit more on the East Coast. I'm trying to see here. So from Ryan, it looks like we've got.
Do you want to do a screen share?
I'm in Dropbox right now, so
okay.
I'm not looking at our website because I'm not signed in. So it looks like we have Homestead, NJMP, Newcastle, NOLA, Orlando, Road America, Homestead, Utah. I know we have Sonoma as well. Those are the tracks that we've got so far, and I'll be working hopefully with Oliver to fill out more of our West Coast track guides coming soon. We're somewhat new in the karting space. We've really kind of predominantly built the business initially on the car racing side. And now it's really last year and really kind of kicking in this year that we're like really trying to move into the karting market, just because we know we've got a great platform. We've got a mobile app now. We've got a web app. It looks great. It functions great. It works great for race car drivers, and literally everything they need to and how it works and how video analysis works and how you upload data, it's the same in karting. So it's like, why not go and expand? And from my experience, it's hard enough to find a good race car or coach in race cars. It was even harder to find a really good coach in karting as well. So hopefully we can make an impact there.
Yeah. I'm feeling like a Norcal karting exclusive coming on with Norcal tracks and Blayze and Jason Berry as the driver. Yeah.
If only you knew someone that could maybe help us coordinate this, we could do a little. We could see how much lap time we can knock off that driving as well.
That's right. You only for me at a 30-second track, you only need to knock off 3 seconds.
Easy.
Only.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy.
Easy.
Close your eyes a little bit. Yeah, there's just, there's also some things we can tweak over here. I guarantee you, with a year, I would be willing to make this guarantee. If you were working at it and getting reps, because when you look at, we kind of talked about our performance equation earlier. Yeah. There's also the equation of, what will then lead to reps, or what leads to faster lap times? For me, it's what equals faster lap times? Reps plus qualified, non-biased expertise, meaning a coach, plus focus. And a big job of what a coach does is to simplify our sport. One of the hardest things about our sport is how much noise, and I don't mean engine noise, I mean there's just information overload in our brains, right? So as a coach, my job is to simplify this sport. Be like, okay, there's a lot happening here. Where your driving is today? What's the one, maximum 2 things that we should be hyper focused on in your next session on perfecting? How are we going to work on it, and why is it important? My job as a coach is to deliver that information to simplify things for you. So when you go out on track, hey, here's my goal for this session. This is the thing I'm working on. I don't care about anything else within reason, right? You're still going to be, let's say you were working on where you pick up throttle. You're still trying to break in a reasonable spot, yada, yada, yada. If you combine those 3 things together, you're going faster. Like, give it enough time, give it enough reps, you will go faster. I've never seen it not work. So I would be willing to guarantee if you put in the effort, you had the reps, you had someone like Oliver ask you, giving you the focus, you would drop a second off that lap time within a year. Not even a doubt in my mind.
Not a doubt in your mind.
Not a doubt in my mind.
I almost want to do a wager, but then do the opposite. As you get to know me more, you'll know I'm just kind of a clown or a smart ass.
Man, I love it. You're a racer, aren't we all?
Yeah. I'm probably on the extreme side of it.
Extreme. I like it. I like that.
Cool. Yeah. Hey, do you want to use the control panel and bring up your site and kind of give people an idea?
Sure. So
I like visuals, and I've been meaning to do more visuals on the live streams where it's like, instead of just my go-kart in the background, like
Totally. Do you want me to share like kind of what our kind of system looks like for race car drivers?
Yeah, bring something up that looks
Cool.
yeah, that
Let me
just
do
grabs people's eye, just in case
Yeah.
they're, you know, streaming by on Facebook or YouTube, bro. It's like,
Totally.
oh, what's that?
So this is my little test account on our Blayze app. We also have a mobile app for all of this as well. And essentially, this is what our coaching sessions look like. You can kind of see we do some stuff in soccer as well. I can ignore that. But this is a video of a race car driver. And this is me coaching a race car driver. So this driver was actually out at Auto Club Speedway, driving the road course. I've worked with them for a little bit, probably about 1.5 years, 2 years. And they just sent me their video. And you'll see I'm up here at the top right talking through what are we talking about this coaching session? What are our major objectives? You see it's a 10-minute, so it's not like this hour-long thing you've got to watch. I'm just going to skip through here, and you'll see I can play the video. Let me go back a little bit farther. So you'll see me talking through it. I'm going to play the video. I'm going to pause it. We're going to go a little bit more slow motion. I'm talking to this driver now about how they're manipulating the brakes into this sort of turn 3-4 section. You see me going slow motion. Now I'm going to pause it here because their car placement isn't exactly where I want to see it. And what I'm doing now is I'm going to put the volume up my headset, and I'm listening to how they accelerate out of their corner, right? And I'm going to annotate on the screen to sort of talk about how they're accelerating out. So right now I'm talking about how they have a long maintenance throttle. So they get the throttle too early, and they have a long maintenance throttle through this corner, which creates understeer. It shifts the weight transfer incorrectly. Now I'm going to coach them on, well, how do I actually want to adjust where I pick up the throttle and the difference between it and how that'll actually affect the weight transfer of the car. So you see, this is a pretty in-depth, just through this one section. We go corner by corner by corner. Then we can also do things like coaching on racecraft. So if you're doing a race analysis, we'll talk about how you overtake, how you defend, how you do race starts, as well as speed stuff as well here. So that's kind of like a little bit of a highlight of what a coaching session looks like. All of those coaching sessions are available to watch, rewatch anytime. That same driver, they have a sim. They're going to Laguna Seca. They sent me their iRacing footage. The sim works the exact same way as real life. So they sent me their iRacing footage. If I kind of show you here, I'm talking about the reference points. So if you're going to a track you've never been to in real life, which is what they were doing for Laguna, I talk about how I use these reference points and what's a little bit different on the sim versus real life. And same sort of thing, slow motion, going through it, highly detailed. Here they're apexing this first red curve just too early, so their car angle is not quite how we want to see it. And they kind of see the highly visual way that this really works. So that's kind of what the coach sessions look like. You can easily come in and purchase coaching sessions anytime. When you're ready, you'll upload your video. I can kind of really quickly show you. This is a really simple thing. So if you want to upload a video, you drag and drop it here. I've got one uploaded. You hit continue. Boom. You can select any of our coaches, Cameron Lawrence, Chris Wareheim, Colin, Ken Hill's fantastic. There you see Oliver Askew. Let's say I want Oliver to be my coach. Continue. Here I could add any notes I want for Oliver. I'm struggling with this thing, or can you help me with this thing? Submit your notes. You hit submit. You sit back and relax, and Oliver will get you your coaching session. It'll be available here. And then on top of that, we also have a really in-depth article library here where you can kind of come through and just spend hours and hours learning. So we talked about mental performance. We've got this video webinar for some of the best coaches, an hour and 20 minutes long, talking about the mental performance side of our sport. That's actionable stuff as well. We go beyond that. We have every other Tuesday night live Blayze Plus calls, which are live coaching calls. So, for example, here, how do we actually learn a new racetrack? So another hour-long call every Tuesday night. Ken breaks down exactly the right techniques. What are vital points? How do we work backwards? What are the 5 reference points for every corner? And how that ties into visual focus, which then all ties into what the heck does eyes up even mean? And how do you have your visual reference? All of this ties together. So that's kind of how our system works. That makes sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pretty in depth too. It's it's honestly for me right now, it's almost overwhelming.
It seems like it, but then it's once you dig into it, it's easy. You know, I upload my video. If you have data, you upload that too. All you get is just drag and drop it in. You hit submit. You get something back, and in that thing back, because I watch your driving and I understand who you are, I tailor my coaching to you. So how I coach someone that is off their third track day versus someone that's been racing for 15 years that's at the top of their game, I coach them in very different ways. I use slightly different language. I focus on different things. That's the personalization of coaching. How I coach a 13, 11-year-old, 8-year-old kid versus how I coach a 55-year-old needs to be different. And that's how we tailor it. You just submit it, you get something back that's actionable. We always dig into the what, why, how. We don't focus on everything you need to do to improve. Remember, the job for us is to help you focus, help you quiet the noise. We say, here's the one thing, but let's dive into this. Why are we working on this? Why is it important? Why is it going to lead to lap time? And then most importantly, how do we make the change? And then afterwards, you could chat message with me, ask me questions. Let's form the plan. I have drivers, I help them study ahead of race weekend. So, for example, I'm working with a bunch of drivers that go into Sebring for the first time this race weekend. We're doing really simple track map exercise drills. This is a really seems like an easy drill, but it's one that a lot of drivers get wrong. I have them get a track map out. I have them label every corner as an exit speed corner, an entry speed corner, or a balance speed corner. I have them label the apexes, and I have them label where their minimum speed in that corner should come. And that last part, most people are never taught where your minimum speed should come. As a professional race car driver, that is the most important thing. Like, that is how I safely approach the limits, how I go over the limits, how I know if I made a mistake. I have a very specific area with where my minimum speed should come. And I know where that minimum speed should come based off of what type of corner it is. And if you just drew a random track that doesn't exist, I would be able to label entry speed, exit speed, balance. I'd be able to label roughly where the apex is, and I'd be able to label roughly where the minimum speed should come just by looking at the track map. And then I'd use my video to then confirm this, and then I'd drive to extra confirm it. But giving them kind of this like a little bit of homework beforehand, this helps them get ready. But it's on their schedule. You upload it when you want. You watch the coach session when you want. You rewatch them when you want. You don't have to do every race weekend. You can if you want. It's really, we have some drivers that do same day coaching sessions with us Friday night and then do race analysis after and do pre-race work. Then we have some drivers that are like, hey, I just want, 4 or 5 times a year, send my video, give me some feedback. It's tailored to fit whatever your needs are.
Yeah. When you said just any random track, for whatever reason, that comment just took me back to, the racetrack and being in someone's trailer with a bunch of cadet kids drawing out the world's best kart track.
Exactly. We've all
after they're throwing the water bottles, which I still don't understand that.
Trying to get them to land perfectly right.
Yeah, I don't get it. I remember we were in Vegas for the Super Dots one year.
Yep.
And it was when I was working for Swede Tech, and we were next to one of the big tents that had 5 million cadet drivers.
Yep.
And all week long, all we heard is just water bottle. Oh, and then the giggling and the laughing, and me and Rainey look at each other. It's like, Mom and Dad are dropping $10,000 this week without blinking an eye. Like that's the starting number, right?
Yep.
Just to be there. That's not getting them there. That's just $10,000, right? And these kids are having the best time of their life throwing the damn water bottles.
I have no clue about anything about that side of it, right? Yeah, totally. You just got to sit back and laugh a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, it just reminds you. It's like, man, it's nice seeing them being kids with anything.
Because they are. They are, right?
And they were racing hard against each other on the track.
Totally. It's just, I think it's easy to lose sight of that in the sport sometimes.
Maybe you could introduce that in your cadet program, the water bottle.
Water bottle challenge. There we go. Yes. I like that.
Well, and I have seen a lot of the kids around the track doing these different exercises where I don't know if I'm paying attention to it because I was exposed to it, so now I see it more often, or if it's something that's happening locally that no, this is a push to do this. But it's just, again, they're just different exercises I see these kids doing before they go out on the track or first thing in the morning. It's like, yeah, we have not seen this before.
Yeah. And, having the pre-race routine's great. It's just making sure there's a why behind everything. In other sports, there's this we work a lot in soccer now, and there's this soccer drills that look great for Instagram that have no bearing to how you play and how you improve as a real in the actual game. There's some of that happening in motorsports with some of the flashy light things, stuff like that. Some of it does have parallels, some of it doesn't if you're using it correctly. So you just, it's finding the right things and always asking, what's the why behind this? How is this benefiting me? Why am I doing this? And making sure that it's science backed and you understand it. And if there is a reason behind it, all for it, right? But I think a lot of it isn't science backed. It's because I saw somebody somewhere doing this thing and it looks cool and it makes me look like I'm a pro, so I should be doing this thing.
I almost wanted to build one of those light things on the back of one of my doors. Just because I love video games. It's like, ooh,
oh, they're fun.
That's going to help my reaction time.
It's funny. We for more of a marketing thing, we bought some of these Blayze pod lights, which is 6 lights, and we brought them out to a NASA event, which is a kind of an amateur car race. And then we had challenges on who could do it the quickest, essentially, and anyone could beat me with giving free coaching sessions out. Didn't give any free coaching sessions out, unfortunately. But I saw that my co-founder, who's the technology person, not an athlete, I think he spent probably 4 hours a day just sitting in front of those lights trying to get they are addictive. It's a fun game. It's fun competition. It's kind of where I'd leave it though.
Yeah. 4 hours.
Oh, he was addicted. He was really, really angry that he couldn't quite beat me. So he was going for it.
It's like the you get bored and you're doing the stopwatch app on your phone.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, how close to 0 can I get?
100%. So the problem we found out about those lights though is they're a bit janky. So if he connected through his phone, all of the reaction times were slower than if we had connected through my phone, because something with the Bluetooth connection was just a little bit off. And then there was also things that how you hold your hands could get you faster reaction times. And that's where I'm like, okay, this isn't actually really.
Oh, so it was more of an app on a phone that
it was
Bluetooth to the lights.
Yeah, exactly. So it's called the company that we got them from is called Blayze Pod. So it's the circle lights that are about this big and they all have different colors, and you're supposed to tap them, right? And they're sitting in front of you or they're on the wall like this. And there's an app that measures your time or how many lights you got in a minute, and you could have little competitions, but it's a bit janky.
So, now you got to tell everyone what phone they need to have for the fastest reaction time.
Well, so the interesting thing is we both had iPhones. We had both the same model iPhones. There's just something with the Bluetooth connection. We tried to go farther away with my phone, closer. Of course, we were bored trying to just figure out what was going on. We couldn't figure out why one was better than the other. That's kind of, I think it's something, it's a relatively cheap device. So you get what you pay for.
Get what you pay for.
It looks cool. It is fun. It's a fun game. It's I would consider it like a board game at night with your parents, but rather than you're playing Cranium or Monopoly, you're playing a reaction time game, which gets a little bit more heated. That's kind of where I'd leave it.
Yeah, well, I like board games, but I'm going to get a text from Ashley here any minute. She's going, don't run on for 4 hours.
I told you beforehand, did I not, that we could be doing this for about 3 hours?
Oh, yeah, no, I have a 4-hour podcast with Andy Saisman from Challenge of Americas. We just didn't shut up. I mean, we just went. Yeah. And she thought I left the microphone on and the cameras on. And she goes, you idiot, you got to turn off the podcast when you're done. Then she logs in, she realizes Andy and I are still talking.
Amazing.
But with that being said, how do you want to wrap up the show?
I just would, how about this? I'll give everyone my personal contact information. My email is Dion, Dion, at Blayze.io. So Dion at BLAYZE.io.
Give me one second here.
You're good. Just reach out to me. I don't really care if you ever have a thought about using Blayze. Of course, we would love for you to try out coaches. And like I said, it's $29. We'll fully refund you. If you're not happy, we've still never done that. But if I could just be helpful, answer questions, just be a resource to someone, I'm always happy to share knowledge. I love giving back and talking racing. I love talking racing, if you guys haven't noticed, in performance. So just reach out to me. Don't hesitate. Don't be shy. Drop me an email. That just goes straight to me. There's no other person that reads my email or anything like that. I'll make sure I respond and be helpful. But of course, we'd love for you to try out Blayze. I know that you'd love it, especially working with someone like an Oliver. try 1 month with him. Go to our website, Blayze.io, sign up for Blayze Plus, try 1 month with Oliver. You get to schedule a one-on-one Zoom call with him where you talk about yourself, your goals, your challenges. He's there with you, understanding it. You upload your video. He's giving you a coaching session. You're going to get access to our Blayze Plus calls for the month, all of our content for the month. You can chat message with him the month. I guarantee you after a month, you'll be like, oh my gosh, where has this been? Oliver's an amazing person, amazing coach. Like, seriously, Oliver asks you as a coach, like, isn't that freaking nuts to be working one-on-one with you for that type of price? So go give him a try. If you hate it, I'll refund you. I don't care. Let's give it a try or email me, whatever you can do to be helpful.
We definitely need to keep this conversation open and do some action to get all the NorCal tracks on your platform.
Oh, yeah, they're coming. They're coming for sure.
Yeah, because that would then I can say, yeah, I did something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's on our list.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we have Dion at Blayze.io.
You got it. Email me.
So email Dion if you have any questions or want to check it out.
Yeah.
And
totally.
let's see. Yeah, might as well wrap it up. Let you get back to your evening because you're it's 10:30. No, 11:30.
No, 10:30. I'm Central.
Oh, you're Central. Okay,
Central.
good.
Yeah.
It's still late for you.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime. I'm an early sleeper, early riser.
You're an early riser.
Getting old, man.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I'm a night owl.
Nice. I miss being that.
Yeah. No, it's I do appreciate you joining us. And,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's been helpful.
What's that?
Hopefully it's been helpful.
I think so. And I think you were right about the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because nice. I'm looking at the analytics like, I got some of my regulars that haven't chimed in yet, and they chime in every single show.
You know, I got it in the background here. It just ended. So, you know, it's up there, but you know, who cares?
We should almost timestamp it and stay on like 5 minutes longer just to see if it shoots up.
Oh,
it's like the game just ended. Boom.
I think it ended about like 15 minutes ago or so.
15 minutes ago.
Something like that. They're having the championship celebrations here. I'm a bit of a sports fanatic here, so I got my stuff going on.
Nice.
Totally.
I'm the same way with the Super Bowl. It's like I don't do it's a holiday for me. I don't watch the rest of the year, but Super Bowl.
Gotta get it on.
Yep, Jim Kids for the Super Bowl party. Boom.
Nice.
That's what we do. It's our family holiday. So awesome. I'm with you on the sport thing.
Awesome.
Let's see here. I'm going to keep you live while I do the wrap-ups, just in case we have some last-second chats coming in or you want to do some final thoughts. But just want to do a recap to everybody for 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Again, my great graphics. My graphic department is awesome. We're up to 627 as of right before this show. So we're trying to hit 1,000. And I'm not going to shave my head. I'm not going to wear eyelashes. I'm not going to do anything goofy. I will sponsor a racer for a race when we hit 1,000 subscribers. And if that racer is supporting Rock Sonoma, Prairie City Karting, NCK Road Racing, part of Team Visalia, or part of the Track Magic Owners Group, or Challenge of Americas, any of those caveats, and I'm going to add to this list. So if you're wondering why is it only those specific series that will get tires and fuel sponsored as well, is because those were the clubs or the organizations that supported NorCal Karters in 2022. So if we get some new sponsors on board with the clubs for 2023, I will add those clubs to that list as well. And again, we'll just do a special show. We'll make it fun, 1,000 subscribers, but we will give away at least a bare minimum of an entry fee. If you're part of like the Track Magic Owners Group or Team Visalia and you don't race and you happen to win, I'll do tires and fuel for you or figure out how to do that. So you get something back if you're not a competitor. But the whole idea of this show is to grow the sport. And with that being said, any final thoughts, Dion?
Just find quality people in the sport. And remember, it's a skill-based sport. So no matter how frustrated you are, it's one that you can learn, you can get better at. You just need someone that knows how to coach it, knows what you need to work on, and can simplify for you. So don't get frustrated. If you feel frustrated, reach out, ask for help. That's the number one thing that any race car driver needs to do in our skill-based counterintuitive sport.
Perfect. And with that being said, if we all bring one person into the sport, we'll double by next year.